It's never fucking good enough. Well, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Channel 99 today. Whew, it's a party cast, obviously, you can tell. I got Mark Barrier. He's one of my buddies. We've worked on a couple projects together. We acted together, and he mentored me. He recently hopped back on social media, and I messaged him and was like, dude, you got to come on my podcast and geek.
Shut up and sit down.
Damn, you are fucking awesome, man. You were able to hit that mic check. I usually tell people like mic check, and they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, I don't know, just start talking to me. And a lot of times I'll tell them, hey, you should just, recite a nursery rhyme, like Baba Black Sheep or whatever it is. Do you know anything? And most people don't even know what to do. And I'm like, okay, well then just say mic check or tell me a story that just happened to you in your normal voice, just like as you're talking to me face to face. So I can like balance it out a little bit. But yeah, it gets a little crazy. Some people don't really know how to do it, but I am dealing with an actor. Fucking Mark. I worked with you on a couple commercial sets. Mm-hmm. 2 H-48s? Was it just the one?
We did 148. We did 2 H-48s and 1 I-48, if I remember right.
And that's right. The I-48 was the it was still the zombie
apocalyptic thing. Yeah.
It was almost H-48 style.
It may as well been. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, that was 2016. Was that the year that we won the best?
No,
Best of Fest.
We got the best. Year? The best of the fest was the one, that Schism thing that we did out in Nampa. Right. So that was the best. Oh no, that was the audience choice actually.
That's
audience
what I thought.
Choice.
Okay, and
that
then
was audience.
That was 2015. Yeah. And then 16 was the... Dude, Schism was sick, by the way. I had a lot of fun filming that with everybody. That was a lot of fun. That was cool. And that was at your wife's family's property, right?
Used to
be out there.
It used to be a wild animal reserve. So I remember all the cages and all that stuff. That was nasty being in that stuff, too.
It was
the cougar cages?
Yeah, very barbaric. Yeah, right? Yeah, totally cool.
That was before I was getting allergy shots, and I was so allergic to all that hair and stuff that was still in there.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy. That shoot was probably one of the coolest and most memorable shoots I've done. And I've done a lot of work. I did probably 5 years worth of work with a lot of the locals who, fortunately, have continued to be successful in their acting careers. You're still working, which is cool. I've been out of the game for like 2 years now because Parallel Worlds was my go-to. Those were the guys who just hit me up and said, hey, we need work, you fit the part, come hang out. Where a lot of people know who I am and they've referenced me, and I've been contacted by other companies. I'm not saying that like the only company I'd ever worked with was Parallel Worlds, but like they were the ones who were attracted to my style, my personality, like what I could contribute to the style of what they were going for, which makes sense because technically, like when I look back at it, I matched a lot of the stuff that they did, but I've been out of the game. I've kind of pushed myself away from acting and modeling, and I do have a management company. They do represent me on a percentage level, blah, blah, blah. But I've tried to stay away from that, because it doesn't make me better. Unless they were to support me in something that I was doing, such as this, which is artistic in a way. And if I were to get one of those companies behind me, instead of just the way that
so
like,
you better,
I could look, and the way you can Photoshop locals, right? me, just because it's easier to Photoshop my body doesn't mean.
Yeah, I know. That's what I tried to do before I came here. I put my head on your body, if I remember right. So I sent it to some people.
Well, dude, like, get this. I have 0 tattoos.
Yeah.
And so it's very attractive right now.
Yeah.
For fitness companies to hire people and models who have no tattoos. What's great for me, what's terrible for the industry is there's a lack of individuals at my age, at my at my fitness peak, that look like me, who can kind of bridge between like the dude who is literally like going to compete versus like the stay-at-home dad who just wants to make sure that he stays in shape because his wife's hot and she deserves to get fucked every night. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the bridge that I gap.
Yeah, well, that's gonna change, as you know. So the tattoos, I think they're always gonna be around, but they were around
tattoos
way
are great.
Before I came in. But I mean, once you get them on, I got one tattoo. It's right on my rib cage here.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that when I was in the service, and it had a lot of meaning to me. It's called a Jack of all trades.
And I'm Jack of all Tims, so I can relate to that.
Have you ever
Check
seen it?
me out
on
Instagram.
One?
What's that? Jack
of
all trades?
Jack?
No, but I am a Jack of all Tims. Is that what I said? That's my Instagram name. That's what I was saying. Like, Tims? Shout out Jack of all Tims. And it's only because I do video photography, podcasting. I skateboard. I do like all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, I'm just all over the place, man. And which is why I call myself Jack of all Tims. I own a nutritional supplement company. So, I mean, for me, like, I just established myself as a Jack of all Tims. But Jack of all trades, yes, continue. I apologize.
No, that's all right. My thought on it though is that a lot of tats, just like they're gonna go out of style, except the tats that are unique to the individual. So when I got that, and like that was in Singapore in '94, I knew that it would never be something that I didn't want, So I just think that the modeling thing with folks wanting you to have tattoos eventually is going to be a less game player than you not having visible tattoos, especially now fitness is different if your shirt comes off, right?
Yeah, I'm clean slate.
Yeah.
Anybody can look at, technically, I'm not saying this because I'm narcissistic and I'm like one of those douchebags. I'm saying I have a clean slate. Look at me. I'm athletic. I take care of my body. I'm of an age, and I'm somebody who can be perceived as 25 to like 35 years old. Like, people really wouldn't know how old I am.
Yeah.
Because I've been consistently asked how old I am, and I've asked those individuals how old they thought I was, and by like my analysis as a professional, analyst as a living, I kind of think I can gauge whether or not I'm in a position where I'm somebody who does not bullshit, and I'm somebody who's very marketable when it comes to that type of marketing. I'm just athletic, and I just take care of my body. I take care of myself. That's just where I'm at. And they contact me all the time. They're like, "Hey, we need you to send this in," all the time. "We need these, and these." And I'm like, "Hey, listen, I've got things already scheduled that day." Unfortunately, I'm scheduled out improving myself because I don't need the money. Money's not a problem. And these are good gigs. These are gigs that are $12, $13, $100 a day. and they're like 2-3 day shoots. But I'm like, well, I've already got stuff scheduled that day. I'll try to move them, but I really don't care. I've got one here in like a couple days that I scheduled through my management company, just because I'm kind of like locked in, only because I went through some acting stuff with the director of the company, and I was like, hey, I'm going to sign with you because you're cool. I think you're going to work with me. And she does. Like, she pushes almost too much stuff to me, and I'm like, I feel bad all the time, just because I think I can fulfill the responsibility and make her look good as like somebody who referred me, just because I know who I am as a professional. But I always tell her, like, I've got other stuff planned, I'm too busy, and that's my problem. Only because that's an opportunity that I have, and that's something that you are good at. Like, we met, was it that set that we met in, like, what, 2013, 14? For the firefighter?
I think that's
Was that the first time we hung out on set? I think, I want to say that got picked up by, like, 30-plus states.
Yeah.
Like, that went national. Which is kind of cool for us.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. In my opinion, that's pretty badass. Just because we were just two dudes from Boise, Idaho, just hanging out, picked you up. Let's go fucking chill on set. Let's just go hang out. And we were only there for a couple hours. And we got paid a ton of money.
We knocked it out. Yeah,
yeah, we knocked it out in a couple hours.
Yeah.
Shout out to Anthony and Jake. Those guys. I'm always in contact with them. By the way, shout out to Anthony. That dude's having twins. And I told his ass when he got married, I was like, if you're going to have kids, it's going to be twins. And guess what?
Wow.
It's twins. And Anthony, I'm stoked for you. I'm super jealous.
Congratulations,
so, cheers.
Anthony.
Yeah. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he got married.
Well, I knew he got married. But no, I didn't. I didn't know what's going on with him. So
yeah, well, I mean, you're kind of low key, man.
Yeah,
that's what happens. Yeah, stand under the radar.
Start getting a little bit older. A lot of the other high impact, high visibility stuff.
Yeah,
it's not. It's nicer just to be not driving on Eagle between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock on any weekday, and between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock on a week, so.
Yeah, I live off Eagle. And
I do too.
I'm going to argue with you on that and say don't drive off Eagle between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. Yeah. You might make it home within a decent amount of time. But it's still kind of rush hour. It's rush hour to like 10 o'clock.
It's getting to be rush hour all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many folks coming in. The infrastructure. I mean, I lived right behind Gold's, right? Yeah. So I'm right off Eagle too.
Yeah.
I've been there since 2009. These medians all the way up and down Eagle, there were none of them.
None.
Well, you live.
I moved in 11. I moved in July 1st.
Of 2011?
Of 2011.
Okay, so some stuff maybe have started to get built up, but all that stuff, the village,
not a lot, though.
Those
the
were
village,
fields.
The village was all fields. It was all sod.
Yeah.
It was like a sod farm.
So it's getting
that was all a sod farm. I'm surprised that all right, so if you're going north, right, and you're looking north, I'm surprised the northwest corner that is usually farmed for corn, I'm surprised that's still corn. Like they have not
I know that
sold
dude, but
out yet.
Yeah, I actually.
You know that guy?
Yeah.
Why hasn't he sold out? Honestly, man,
they have no reason.
Real estate's going to start dropping here soon.
It probably will, but I mean, I think that some people, if you ever look at that field, that rotates, every spring or fall, and it's different stuff every time. But have you seen how beautiful the stuff that they grow there? The crops,
yeah.
So
totally.
they know how to farm real well, and I think that's their thing.
And
just like when you say you don't need some gigs, you're okay financially. Some other people are the same way, man.
That's the exact same thing. Yeah, enjoy yourself. Well, the thing with our environment here is you can do seasonal crops. Like you can go from corn to potato to like you can split your acreage up. There's a lot of things they can do. That corner is consistently producing. I have no qualms with that.
Oh yeah. I know what you're saying. It's just such it's so marketable right now, and even the housing industry. I mean, but I'll tell you one thing.
I'd hold on to it if I was him.
You grew up in Idaho though, right?
Because yeah.
Okay, so when I say something like that, like have you ever seen those crops that come up? Somebody that grew up ranching or farming, if you did and I did or were around that, you don't see, just like any other industry. They're not, just because somebody's in the industry doesn't mean they're good at it. Some crops are pretty crappy, and it has nothing to do with the bad weather or not a good irrigation. It's because you're not a good farmer. Yeah. Those guys are good.
No, they do an exceptional job on the corner. Yeah, and they rotate it very well. Exactly. I'm not a farmer, but my father is very good at least educating me on certain things, and I've taken lots of road trips with my dad through many states. He used to be like a trucker, all kinds of stuff. So like
just like somebody's lawn, right? You don't have to be a lawn specialist, but you can tell somebody's lawn that looks good.
Shout out to my dad. Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody in my neighborhood, right? You know? Everybody in my neighborhood has the same irrigation pump, but they don't all know how to take care of their yards. My yard, to be honest with you, it's probably one of the better yards in the neighborhood. The only reason I say that is because my neighbor gave me all of his secrets, and the dude across the street from me, he's kind of a piece of shit. So, cheers. No, that's true funny, though.
But it is.
That literally is true. Like the dude across the street from me, like that guy's kind of a douche. But the guy next to me, he gave me some secrets, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna run with that. I'm gonna Google that, look into it, and my grass is like awesome. But you know what's cool? Both my neighbors, we take care of each other. So if I see that he's got like a run of clover in his front yard, I run over there. Yeah, that's why I locked those down, but somebody popped those off the other night. My coasters, that is. But no, my neighbors are cool. They'll come over, they'll spray some of my weeds if they see something's popping up. I do the same. Like, we kind of look out for each other. But as far as like, making sure that, we dose them up with the right
that made it sound exactly like my neighbor comes over because I don't take good care of mine. No. He comes over and takes care of me, and that's like talking about how much you shovel each other's snow, right?
I do. We know that's bullshit. Don't shovel snow, but I'll sure go over there and spray some goddamn weeds. You know why? Because when I spray weeds, I see value in what I did. But when I shovel snow, there's always more snow because Idaho is unpredictable.
So it's even better.
And there's going to be another 4 inches after I shovel.
Thaw, and then it freezes at night, and then they get to slip around and just say, when is this going to melt off? When it's freaking March.
Yeah, no.
If you shovel, as soon as it snows and it's stopping, man, it dries out.
Right.
And then, see, I don't have that problem on my driveway.
Yeah.
But that's why, we're both.
But I'm very blessed, and I'm very fortunate to have some badass neighbors, neither of which, or neither of which, depending on how you pronounce that, probably listen to my podcast. But those, like both my neighbors, they're so cool. And sometimes they bring me cookies because they know I'm a 33-year-old bachelor. And sometimes they come over and just want to chit chat and be like super Mormon, and I'm like, I can't do that because I'm not super Mormon. Well, I don't subscribe to religion.
You can have this. You can have the discussion, though, right? Because there are always people to be influenced,
Well, I kind of,
without imposing your will,
When I have people, I have a no soliciting sign on my doorstep. So for the most part, I don't get a lot of people who knock on my front door, but my dog will freak the fuck out. So when she freaks out and she sees people coming to the door, because a lot of the time she will sit and watch the front area of the house to see if anything's coming. She's like super protective. So, anyway, a lot of the times I don't have like solicitors, but where was I going with that? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I was just saying that people from my personal experience, and I think yours too, I've talked about this a little bit before. The term religion or the term of or being having a higher power, or being atheist, or being agnostic, all these different things. Those, I grew up in a Catholic family, and I think those that grow up in a family with a religious institution that is very conforming. That's what you do in that family, and this is how we
very
look. Very structured, and then the community too is surrounded with that too.
Very involved.
Whether you want them to be or not, and free thought is not part of the component. Those that, for me, it took me many years. It took me till I was probably mid-40 to say, why am I there? I'm going to look for something else.
Damn.
Right? But once I did, and then I realized that all these other things, and again, I'm not going to, if somebody's Catholic or they're Mormon or whatever, but when somebody gets to the point that says, this, I'm not buying all this stuff, because it's not about, it seems like it's more about your institution.
It's a brainwashing.
Man-made institution as opposed to maybe a God that I think that I want to have faith in.
Yeah.
And so, and those are hard things to break for anybody from any family when you go in your own direction, whether you back off. My point being, though, is if somebody wanted to talk to me, maybe they knew I was Catholic, thought I was Catholic, and wanted to talk Catholic talk. In a kind manner, I'd be able to express myself and say, this is why I'm not a Catholic anymore. If it works for you, that's great. It doesn't for me, and this is why it didn't. These are the things that went on from my perspective, and whether it's and my biggest thing that the Catholic Church obviously was at the beginning with the pedophilia scandal, and that was going on forever. But the point being is people in leadership position protecting other people, and so. But my point, if somebody wanted to, you can have that whatever your perspective is, rather than just saying, I'm not a Mormon, I'm not LDS anymore. You can maybe have that discussion because there are other people that are struggling with their freedom and their own, allowing themselves to go in whatever direction. That's all my point was.
Yeah, no, valid point. 100%. I agree with you. And I can add to that. I just believe that on top of that, religion does allow us the opportunities to grow in certain capacities, but it's within a very restricted, confine, right? Is that the correct vocabulary? We're confined to a certain amount of growth. Anything outside of that is taboo. And having been raised LDS, married in the LDS temple, and going through, those ceremonies, and then watching, different documentaries on the LDS religion and the history of Freemasonry, and the list could go on. I'm not talking shit, and I'm just talking truth is what I'm talking. And those things kind of opened up my eyes, because I'm not I'm not somebody who's influenced by somebody easily. I'm someone who marches to the beat of my own drum. My parents have told me that since I was just a kid. I'm somebody who does what I want to do because I want to do it. And when I looked further into the things that I was continuously told growing up, hey, don't look into this. You know, like, don't look at, like, anti-Mormon stuff. That'll really mess you up. And then I started looking into it. I was like, holy shit, that makes sense. Like, I read a lot of different stuff. I'm, like, very well self-educated beyond, you know, my traditional education, which is like within the 2% of the American population. So, I mean, like, I'm educated not only curricularly, but I'm self-educated, meaning that I pursue my own opinion and I continuously build on those opinions with more factual evidence. And if I find something that contradicts what it is I believe, I am somebody who fully embraces it and pursues that. And if that fully contradicts my previous beliefs, I will change what it is that I believe. I am somebody who embraces change completely, but you have to really prove it. There has to be something that changes my perception beyond just an opinion, an uneducated opinion. You have to have something that is without, what did they call it? Without a reasonable doubt. Is that what they say?
Yeah,
you know, like
that.
Almost like basically like the judicial system.
Right.
You have to basically beyond a reasonable
yeah.
doubt. Like, you have to just prove it to me. Like, hey, I have my knowledge. If you can prove me otherwise, I'd be more than happy to subscribe to your ideas. If you can prove it to me in a further way than what it is that I have actually invested myself within that capacity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think there are other things, though, as we grow and we change our identity, there are other intangible things that start becoming more important than just all truth. Because a lot of times we don't know truth. We've got to believe something unless we see it and it's happened to us and we've got direct representation, you know, we're there on the spot. Sometimes there can be conflicting truth. And then you've got to come to a determination, what you believe. But talking about going back to when we're talking about religion, which is part of an identification, you know, and so so when I told you about maybe 40, you know, I'd stopped going to church a long time ago, but I think 40-something was when I made a decision I'm going to pursue something different specifically. Yeah. But what came along with that was realizing, looking back and saying, looking at my life and my identity, and I was always pursuing what I thought my identity should be and what other people would respect it to be. Yeah. And
what you
and I was okay.
What you want you to be versus what you want to be perceived as. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, like, you know, we've got similar backgrounds growing up, just sports first, athletic. Now, I didn't play college ball, but that's why I said nice stick marks. I mean, I did play. I played in the East West Shrine game from Idaho.
Yeah,
but
that's like top level.
Well,
like, I didn't play in the Shrine game, so that's kind of a big deal. Yeah.
But I mean, my whole time, even as an adult, but especially when I was younger, I realized that I was trying to be great at athletics, and whether I was good or not, that's what I thought I needed to do because that was what was cool, and that's what, you know, the people that I admired were good at. And then it came like the Marine Corps, right? I joined the Marines. I was 17. Well, what was I, just a big patriot or whatever? You know, to be honest with you, I thought I wanted to be a badass. I wanted to test myself. That's why I'm joining the Marines. It had nothing to do, but I knew in most circles it would be respected. So yeah, that's. I don't want to go to college. I won't go to college. This is where I'm going to go. So then my time in the service, and then getting out and going through life, and sometimes I just think a lot of times people have a defining moment and realize some of the stuff that was so important to me, it's not that important anymore. So, you know, like the man card, right? How long does that stay important? That doesn't mean, for me, a switch isn't turned when I get that look from somebody, and I don't care what their age is, but there comes a time when it's like, I don't care, man.
Yeah, well, I've never been somebody to subscribe to that man card.
Oh, I'm not saying you are, but my point about the identity, though, we change our identity as we get older.
Well, and for the most part, a lot of people do, but there are individuals like you and I who don't have to feed into the frat boy mentality. And the only reason I say it's a frat boy mentality is a lot of times you have like a brotherhood. Like, it's like people who are within that realm of like acting or modeling,
right,
or whatever it is they do, and they're like the top dudes in the area. And like you have to feel as though you are accepted, and it's not just with males. I mean, I would assume it's twice as intense with the females, because the competition is probably just like twice as hard. So either way, like I kind of relate to that, but I don't get sucked into that. And why? It's because I'm fortunate enough to be in a position in my life to have set myself up to not worry about having to compete locally with like models and actors, which is probably why I get contacted all the time. And I shouldn't say all the time, but enough to be like, I am sorry, I can't do that. Like, I'm busy doing my own thing. I'd rather improve on myself. Like, I was contacted to do a shoot for, I think it was some outdoors company, like a gun company. I don't really know. Either way, Urban Talent, that's who represents me. They hit me up and were like, hey, forward us this info. Do you know how to handle a gun or firearm? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, totally. I own a gun. I have an enhanced, like, concealed carry. Of course I know how to handle a gun. Sure. They contacted me and they were like, we'll let you know by like the 13th. Because I think it's like the 13th to 14th. So I've got like a week to kind of be like, hey, what's up, guys? But for me, it's like, if I don't get that, it's not the end of the day for me. It's like, cool. Yeah. Congrats to the next person. Maybe have them come over and chit chat about it and give me like a heads up on like what their career is going to be like. Because if they can beat me out, cool, come over and hang out. Not that I'm anything special, but hey, I'd love to know like all about you and hang out. Just because I think somebody like that is obviously ambitious enough to put themselves in a vulnerable position to succeed at something that they want to be good at. And that to me is inspirational, and it makes me a better person. I don't want to be a model. I don't want to be an actor. I don't want to be I don't want to be a consultant. No. What I want to be is I want to be somebody who influences
Tim of all trades.
Jack of all Tims.
Jack of all Tims. Okay.
What I want to be is somebody who can provide a platform for people who have a story that can impact somebody else's life, regardless of their background or their education. I guess background is very top line. So regardless of their background, and that would include their education and the experiences they've had growing up, whether it's like childhood abuse or adult abuse, like within a marriage. I think something that's completely neglected is the emotional abuse that is endured by a lot of men who are married. I have endured some serious emotional abuse, and it shows because I'm 33 and I'm fucking single. And look at me, I shouldn't be single. I should be dating somebody, and I should be like, if not dating, seriously, I should be married and have a child with somebody who's completely gorgeous, like somebody who's like matches me, who has a potential, you know.
Who says who though?
Well, what I'm saying is, like,
I know what you're saying.
I'm somebody who shouldn't have to be. I shouldn't have to be like looking for somebody. I should be already set in a position and have another person supporting me, and vice versa, me supporting them in what it is that they're successful at. And that's just how I see it. I don't know.
No,
maybe because like maybe because I'm 33 going on 34, and I'm like, I have no kids. I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. I'm just doing hobbies for fun, but my hobbies are fucking fun. So whatever. I'm not complaining, but I guess maybe it's something that I would have expected for myself, and at this point in time, I feel like I failed myself.
You were married once, and it didn't work out. And I was married till I was 37, and then I was single I was single for a good 10 years. I mean, relationships here and there. So, but when I stopped looking, that's when she came along. When I stopped looking, and I wasn't like, and
I hadn't been looking.
So I still wanted to date, I like companionship. I'd like to go out with women, but yeah, I'd let them know.
Didn't pursue it.
No, well, no, and I let them know at the beginning.
Yeah.
Even maybe if we were going to see each other again, I'd be, hey, I'm not looking. I've tried looking, and the relationships haven't worked out. So I'm just wanting companionship, going out, having fun, and let them know I'm not interested in anything. Doesn't mean I'm a player or anything. It's just I'm just letting you know, so you don't waste. Yeah. If you're looking for something more from me, and so then about two and a half years later, she came along. So.
7. Well, dude, you have a cool wife. I've hung out with her a couple times on set.
Shout out to Charity.
Shout out to Charity. She's so cool. And she's super hot, dude. And by hot, I mean like...
I hear you, man.
And by hot, I mean she's somebody who's like passionate about what she does. She's very professional. She's very friendly. She's approachable. That's one thing that's important, is you're approachable. Like, you're not intimidating, but you have to be intimidating in certain aspects. And she is, that she's very good with communicating. Yeah. And that can be intimidating when you're talking to somebody who's highly educated. And it's also intimidating when that individual also is doing something that you're doing, right? So it's like a stack. But the cool thing about Charity is she doesn't intimidate you, but she lets you know how good she is at everything. Does that make sense?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that's the perception I get. Like, you get the you get the view. Like, when I met her, I was like, this girl is super. The first thing I thought, this chick is super professional. Second off, she's really good at what she does, and she lets you know. Yeah. So she automatically establishes credibility off the bat, and then she lets you kind of figure out whether or not she's somebody to respect on the next level. And
that was one of the biggest.
And she sustains that.
Attractions to
cool,
her,
man.
Is that she was authentic, and authentic people are hard to find, man.
Dude, you guys are a good match, man.
What's that? No,
you guys are a perfect
but we were both
match.
looking. We had certain things that most people don't look for in the relationship. When they're young, you don't know any better. But then when you start looking for things like values, we got to have the same values. There's one thing about going out and having fun and hanging out, spending the weekend with somebody, and not having the same values, life values. But that was like something we were on really quick. being vulnerable, being able to talk about our past, being flawed, our own issues in life where, things didn't work out. And, we were able to hit that stuff quick. And, I think that helped form the bond. But, I realize that the value thing is something that people wait way too long to talk about, or they just think that's just a little something, it's just a little something that I'm not sure why, the waiter gave her too much money back and she looked at me and kind of smiled and walked away. Am I going to let that go? Or am I going to be like, hey, what was that? You think that was cool? Really, that you just took money from him and he didn't know you were doing it? But and it doesn't matter if that's who she was, but being able to have those conversations, and a lot of people wait way too long to just say, what's your philosophy in life, man? What's your values and different things? So I think and I'm sure with when the next one comes, and whether that's the one that's going to be for a long time or not, things that weren't important to you with your first wife, that you didn't think about talking. We just don't talk about these things. Yeah. You're going to be talking about them. You're going to be hitting them hard.
Well, I mean, those things, they translate into every relationship and they evolve, right?
Yep, right.
Like you recognize one thing to the next and then you see more of a pattern, or, you see certain things that you didn't recognize before that are certain behavioral patterns that are consistent within, both of those relationships. But for me, I am pretty, pretty guarded, and it's very difficult to break me. And, I separated 4 years ago, and I've dated, exclusively, 2 women. Both those women, they completely struck me in different ways. And they were 2 completely different ways of excitement. So for me, it's always something new. So maybe the next person will maybe it'll strike me in a different way where I'm completely blown away outside of the last 2 relationships. That's how I see it. I don't know. As you get older, you kind of recognize things and you see patterns.
I think some of that wow instead of realism. And is this somebody that I want to have an intellectual conversation with? I want to have a conversation about anything that is not just that is not just throwing it out there. I think, and I don't think there's a certain age on it either. Some people, it just doesn't work out for them their whole life. They don't move further emotionally or intellectually or in a lot of different ways. And it's not because they don't want it. It's just they just don't. That's where they
just
stay.
Don't. Well, and a lot of times it's because of their experiences and their upbringing, and they don't. They're never challenged to think in that capacity, and those individuals don't know how to interpret or to I guess finalize some type of conclusion to whatever it is the situation is. They're not able to express themselves. And the problem with that is people who are emotionally intelligent, those who have a higher EQ, they're left completely fucking confused because they don't know whether or not they overanalyze. Right? And they don't know whether or not it's their problem or if it's the other person's problem. And the issue with that is, I think people who do have a higher level of, an emotional quotient, and by that I mean your EQ is your equivalent to your IQ. So your intelligence quotient is essentially, you can translate that into your emotional quotient. So if you have high EQ, it just means that the higher your EQ, the better your ability to distinguish your emotions from your decision-making process and and not letting those influence it beyond whatever it is that you need to make a decision on. So like, you don't, if there's some type of a personal, if there's some type of like a personal connection between whatever it is, the decision you have to make, your EQ should supersede that based on, I guess, the result of everybody else, the shareholders in this influence, or in this instance, like it should be for the benefit of the majority versus your own.
Most not most men, but most adults 30 or older have been hurt in a relationship one way or the other.
They have.
But I would
statistically they have.
But I would say for men, so when we're talking about this emotional thing, you can go, and I'm just using me as an example, and still struggling with emotions, but at least recognize at a certain age that I am, when you're talking about guarded, when I am, and it's not just from women, it's from a lot of things. It's just from people. It's just guarded, period. And then trying to there are something to be said so much about a person. Again, this is me in my 40s. After I had a fall from grace and just kind of crashed and burned and was trying to figure stuff out. And to live by yourself, no roommates, no girlfriend, no pets, no nothing.
Alone.
Just you and what you do and where you go and you spend your time, whoever that is. That was probably the most enlightening to me in my life, because I got to hit a lot of these things that we're kind of talking about that I never, like the man card, I never looked at so many of these things that were so important to me, and I started being by myself and not just being all right by myself. And when I when I mentioned like going on dates and stuff, and not wanting a girlfriend, but I don't think. I think though that we stay in that mode of what we're familiar with. We don't, once we've been hurt and we've been burned, especially emotionally, especially for, I can't speak for women. I don't know why it'd be any different, but that's, well, some guys are wimps when it comes to physical pain, but emotional pain, when you've been burned and you've been lied, just things that were not right and wrong, and especially if there was infidelity, all kinds of other things, and not to say that I didn't have my own things, but
there's a lot of things that can strip you of your manhood.
Yeah,
like it's hard. A lot of things,
and it's hard to give that opportunity.
Exactly, and you may have like this outside perception, and people may perceive you as being super masculine, only because you may overcompensate in certain capacities, right? Like there might be certain things that you're like, all right, like what could I make myself better at to make sure that like the next chick doesn't fucking bail on me, I personally don't really fucking fall in that area. I don't really think I've ever had an issue with myself when it comes to dating somebody, only because I'm an individual. I don't know. I'm pretty fucking confident in what I've done. Yeah. Like I don't know, like anybody can track like my history and go through like my history. There may be a few people who could question it only because they would be the naysayers. But like for the most part, like I've always given shout outs to my ex-girlfriends. I've always given shout outs to the women who have made me better. And this has been consistent throughout the entirety of my social media. And the only reason why is because I don't waste my time with somebody if I don't think my time is worth spent. And these people make me better in certain ways that I feel maybe I could marry this person. And maybe this person could make me better in these areas that will accentuate where I'm good at in life and make me better wherever that takes me, because I believe wholeheartedly that I have a purpose in life that is beyond what it is that I do. I only say that because I have gone through certain things that I believe should have killed me many times. Many times. I have police reports that say homeboy should be dead. And I've put myself in positions where I should be dead, and I'm not. And so I believe that whatever it is my purpose is, right here, right now, every person that I've been with, shared, intimate time with, emotional time with, they have been a part of my development to be something that is more than what I am right now. I'm not saying that because I'm self-righteous, but I shouldn't be alive right now. And there's a lot of fucking people who can attest to that. And I'm just saying, there are people in life who have done certain things where they shouldn't be alive. You, in my opinion, are one of those people, which is why I wanted you on the show, because you have given 25 years? You were a Marine Recon for how long? 20 years?
I was in my 22nd.
22nd year. So you did 22 years of service.
Well, no.
Going on 23.
I was into my 22nd, so 21.
21 going on 22. God
Yeah.
bless you, man.
Right on.
Well, and it's people like you, and I can't relate. I've never had bullets slung at me. I've just been in situations where, I probably shouldn't have stood up, and let alone walked away or been less than 6 feet under. So you, alongside being an individual that I know through acting, which we've already talked about, you did a lot of time in the military, and my father was in the military, brother military, both retired now. Brother did 21 years. Justin. Yeah, so he retired 21 years, and then my father did 30-something years. I don't know. I should probably know that.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, colonel. Yeah, retired colonel.
So you had some other things added on to your childhood. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not saying that good or bad. I'm just saying they are what they are.
That'll give you a little bit of a background though to why I'm a little more structured than the majority of the the population. I guess. So, to be honest with you, do not know. Cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming over.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, brother.
We're an hour in, and everybody's probably who are we hanging out with again? Yeah, Mark Barrett. This dude's dope.
Nah, man.
Military-wise, I have repeated this to so many people. The first time I picked you up for the cowboy shoot, what was it, 2013, 14? I think it was 13 maybe.
Sounds about
2013, right. 14. I looked like a baby. But I remember for that shoot, I'd picked you up, and you had told me that you had done you had done time in the military, you were a veteran, and that you had recently gotten out, and that most people who talk about things that they had seen and glamorize it, they're either full of bullshit or they got problems with them. And ever since that point, and reconfirming it with my brother and my father, obviously, just because that's, who I surrounded myself with. like, it totally makes sense, because ever since then, anytime people have told me stories, like military stories, or glamorized it, it sounded like bullshit. And the people who I do know who have done more than like one tour, and they were outside of Kuwait, you know, these people didn't want to talk about it. And if they did want to talk about it, it was like more or less, listen, this is not cool. Like, I'm going to tell you, this is probably the worst shit of my life. And that makes sense, because nobody can glamorize war. Like, that to me, I read a poem, and people have asked me, why don't you serve in the military? Your dad's like retired colonel. You know, like, you got a brother in the military, your uncle military, blah, 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 all military, right? Grandpa on both sides. Well, World War II, everybody was fucking drafted, right? So you're all going military at that point. But, like, for the most part, I did get asked, and I thought about it, and I wanted to go military. And technically, I still can.
Yeah, you can.
I technically still can go, and maybe, hey, maybe I'll go Space Force. That would be sick.
Hey, it's coming up, man.
That would be sick, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'll hang out on fucking.
Sure you will. That will be
like
your,
an international
your
space station. That's cool, man. Maybe that is it. I've talked a lot about that kind of stuff. So, hey, what's up? Maybe I'll make something of myself in the Space Force. But I forgot what I was going with that. I got lost.
People what they talk about or don't talk about.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah, I just remember you telling me, for the most part, because I started asking you about your service, and you're like, hey man, I really don't want to talk about it. For the most part, people who do talk about it, you kind of gave me like a lecture, like an older brother lecture, not a dad lecture. Does that make sense? Which is why I gave you so much respect.
To support myself, I don't know that I was that standoffish, but I think the question that sometimes people get asked by other people is, are you a combat veteran? Not just are you a veteran or what did you do? And so that could be. It's not. Everybody is different, but in these things that I was telling you was in general, and I think they're no different than in general in other things. Now I'm not talking about bad experiences.
Yeah.
But I think that going back to riding motorcycles and crashing, or other experiences that people have been in, and they weren't part of the norm, and maybe they didn't process them, and they're not quite ready yet to process them. It's a real hard question for a lot of people to respond to. So my point was that there are some people that are much more comfortable talking, but that can be about any of their experience, right?
Yeah. Well, do you believe that it is that it might be an impairment on the VA's ability to rehabilitate veterans? Do you think there's a certain mentality out there that kind of exacerbates the whole like American pride, like, yeah, I was out there, I fucking killed like 30 towel heads, and, I did all this kind of shit? Or like, as far as like that frat boy mentality, you go out there to, to take as many heads as you can? Or do you think it's, maybe, and I hate to repeat this because I just said this, but like, or do you think, in more selective terms, do you think it's the VA's inability to actually like cope with how many people are able to come back and actually like process that? Well,
the VA is horrible. VA is horrible, and I'm going to say this because it is a government institution as large as it is. The people, the individuals at the VA, for the most part, especially when you're talking behavioral health, if you're talking PTSD, that kind of stuff, they're good at what they do and they care. But the VA in itself is but I will tell you this,
like
man.
the overall system, and in the only reason
my point, I will tell you this. Just like anything else, we have choices, and sometimes we're not maybe educated, we're ignorant on certain things, so we don't recognize the choice that we're about to make. Maybe that could be just being ignorant, but for the most part, we have choices, we have free will. And most veterans, unless they're complaining about not getting enough because they've got those that have a sense of entitlement, there are the veterans that do too. Most veterans, though, they'll get help if they want it when they're ready. The problem is, when do you know it's ready?
And
that's
there is help.
My point being is, when do you know when it's ready? How far down have you gone? And some people, they never get to.
They don't take advantage
being
of
ready.
it.
Well, it's not they don't. It's they. When we're talking about the dichotomy, if you're talking about somebody that joins the military, all right, especially if they go into a service that is combat arms. All right, and they join it because, hey, they want to be in the fight. That's why they want to. That is not something that you can just turn off. Going back to that masculine man, and that's the environment.
You think it's a primal instinct, though? At that point, do you think like you shut off a lot of your decision-making processes, and you literally are in it for the fight of your life? I'm asking this from an outside perspective. Like, I think primal. Again,
everybody's experience.
Like when
in harm's way is different, you know.
Like when I'm about to, and I hate to make this this connection, but when I'm about to fuck somebody, it's primal. I literally feel like my complete decision making is overridden by a primal process. I feel like it doesn't matter who this is. You need to do what you need to do to procreate. That's how I feel. Is it the same as far as survival? Like, I don't care what I need to do.
I'll go back to your other question.
I don't know what I need to do, but I need to survive on that primal instinct. Do you think that is something that incapacitates a lot of soldiers who are in this?
I think if you're talking again, having troubles with people and trust and anxiety and hypervigilance and head on a swivel and can't go in public places. If that's what you're talking about, what I'm talking about, what I would tell you is that the whole thing about the psych. Okay, so take a personality of somebody like, I don't have anything wrong with me, and I'll be damned if anyone's going to fix it, or I'm going to let my peers know that I'm struggling with this stuff. That's number one. So you've got
pride.
That personality. Exactly.
Pride.
And it's masculine too, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
well, I mean, that's having some pride.
Self-sufficient.
Yeah, I've been there. I've done it. I do what I do. I have no problems. Don't talk to me about it.
Then my second thing is that I was going to tell you, and especially if somebody goes down the path, whether it's coping mechanisms, substance abuse, if they get in trouble with the law, which a lot of people with these issues do, and I'm not to be excluded, but if you have that, rugged individuality but you are by yourself and you're not with your buddies anymore and you're on your own, and maybe you have a wife, maybe you got a family, maybe you're all by yourself, but you still don't even trust a lot of other people around you, even if they are veterans. That doesn't necessarily mean anything to somebody else. So my point being to you, going back to the VA, is nobody for anything with free will unless you are locked up. You have free will, and people, if they want it, they're pretty aware it's there. They just don't want to. It's like, I will when you get married, right? Were you going to get divorced? Were you going to be one of those people that get divorced? Absolutely not. I wasn't either. That's what happens to those people. Not my family, not where I come from. And then you find out you're getting a freaking divorce. And it's the same mentality that I'm not those people. I'm not that guy going to the VA for that stuff. Like, hey, just leave me alone. I'll get back to reality when I want to. So it's a tough question with those two different dynamics that are really involved. So to answer your question, bottom line is, doesn't matter if it's the VA, doesn't matter what's out there, doesn't matter if somebody's living down at the Greenbelt. They'll get the help if they want to get the help. Now, sometimes that could be from a buddy checking up, or other guys, just doing a comm check and say, hey, how you been? That may snap a lot of people out.
And they have a system like that, don't they?
It's something that you just try to do. But again, I'm going back to the animal instinct of what we do as being independent. We don't tell our buddies those things. People don't tell their buddies those things.
They don't.
People that are gonna, cap themselves. You don't have to be military. If you are in that mode and you don't get on the phone and call your frat boys and say, I'm about to kill myself, if you're really about to do it, right? You don't want anybody to know you got those struggles, right? Because those guys don't have those struggles. Maybe they do. You don't know it. But in your mind, it's like, I'm not a pussy. Anyways, going back to the military stuff, though. Man, I look at it the same way. Even like when we're talking about acting or talking to people with different occupations, those that want to tell you how good they were at something or how long they did something or do you know who I am kind of thing, they're normally, they weren't. They know enough about it to tell you about it.
Yeah.
And then those that are kind of humble or try to be humble and try to be like, hey, man, I ain't all that. I'm just like the next person. I get different experiences. Those type of people are normally the ones that a lot of us are attracted to, that want to get around. Because it's like, I want to be around that person because that person has something. I remember that screaming and hollering like in the Marine Corps at the beginning. Yeah. I was like, oh, man. I want to be like him. And then as I started getting up the rank further and started doing more things, and it was much more real world or serious stuff, I started realizing though, those guys, and those were the guys, a lot of them that became senior. Those are the guys that retired, want to tell you how much rank they had or this. So there are those walks everywhere, but for the most part, the veterans that I'm, they just try to be low key and be humble, and it was what it was,
Yeah.
So
that's good. I don't know. My dad, he would always tell me. So he's the clinical coordinator over at the VA, and he would always tell me that a lot of times, there would be people who take serious advantage of the system. They're like. And I don't know how that works. He wouldn't go into detail, but he would always be like, that's why I don't claim anything, because he's a veteran. I mean, the guy did 30 plus years, colonel. So, I mean, the guy's been around the block a couple times. He's seen some shit, and he also oversees the clinical fucking facilities for the VA here in Boise.
Yeah.
But the VA here, from what I understand, whenever I mention that before I even mentioned that my father has anything to do with it, a lot of people always commend the Boise VA for being one of the better VAs.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Always going in. If you have an appointment, they get you in right away. They don't have problems. I don't know how much that reflects on my father, but I commend him for being a part of whatever it is for that type of a reputation. So, but I just remember him always telling me there are a lot of people who take advantage of the system and they abuse it because, you can. There's so many people who can abuse it for so many different reasons, right?
Well, intuition goes a long ways, and you know who those people are. And you see them and you hear them talking loud, or you even maybe see them in some group study type things that, going back talking about when somebody wants to talk so freely about something that, I'd like to think there's not that many, but they're human beings and they're part of the population. And a lot of people they don't just join the military. And again, some veterans may not like. I'm harder on veterans because other people can't be hard on them, and we've got accountability too. If you're going to be in that group and you're going to be part of that group, that's not my main identity, but I'm going to call out my own because nobody else is going to call you out. So I'm going to call you out. So there is that percentage of deadbeats that are living, 25 years ago and still demanding on the things that are
a bunch of Uncle Ricos.
Well, and
dude,
people that
I've
are
got
full
two
of
stories.
Shit, telling stories that that you don't believe, and nobody's going to check it, nobody's vetting you, but it's like, why are you telling me this,
dude? So get this, man. Literally yesterday, I had a guy show up at my front door, and he was with another guy, and he started giving me this spiel about how he was a veteran, he was a Freemason. He had to sell these packages. They were like $100 a piece or something like that. And if he didn't sell so many by the end of the day, he'd have to be charged for them. And I'm sitting there thinking like, all right, well, I can't fucking afford that. I'm not going to give you $100. Give me a couple and I'll pitch them to some people because I am connected with the veteran
Why did you tell
community.
me you were a veteran? Why did I need to know that?
Yeah, well, it turns out I pull this dude up. His Instagram name is like literally 420 fat kid 420 FATKID. All he does is smoke weed. Not a big deal. Hey, if you can function and smoke weed, fucking do it because people do it all the time. But don't tell me you're a fucking veteran. Don't try to bullshit me on your name. Don't try to fake it with a dude who looks like a fucking meth addict, like hanging out with you on your side. Don't ask me. He asked me if I could smoke him out. He's like, do you have anything to smoke? Like, it smells like your house is like 420 friendly. I had made coffee for a guest.
You're just a magnet, man.
Yeah, dude. I had no soliciting signs. So this dude like rolls through, tries to smoke my weed, tries to drink water. The other dude looks like he's trying to get a fix for some fucking meth. It's like totally weird. But we also have a lot of people who fake being like veterans and fake being a process. Like this dude gave me
fake being an actor.
Dude, this guy gave me, yeah, totally. This guy gave me, he gave me like a little, it was, what was it? It was like some type of a brochure that was laminated. Looked cheap as fuck. Like some dude put it together in like Microsoft Word, maybe 2013. Like Word 13. You know what I'm saying? Like this dude's rocking small equipment. Comes over, tries to give me some shit, tries to like bullshit me on a bunch of veteran stuff, wants like $100. He only has like, he promised 18 and he's done 13 for the day. And I was like, hey man, sorry, I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm not retarded. Like, sorry dude, my IQ's a little above 72. Like, no offense, but I'm a little bit smarter than fucking giving you $100 because you say you're in the military. That was absolutely ridiculous. First thing my parents told me, don't ever give money to anybody who says that they're a veteran. Why? Because there are a ton of fucking programs for people who are veterans, who have served our country, to not have to ask for food, for money, for anything else. And the majority of the time, they're all a bunch of freeloading bullshitters who do not know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm sure being somebody like yourself, you'd be able to spot a lot of people.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, you know, you being a football player at a high level at college, you know, somebody wants to start talking about a middle linebacker and talking about filling a hole and talking about that tailback coming through and cracking heads and getting a freaking stinger. You're going to know if they filled the hole, if they've done it, if they've done it though,
totally,
because you could have been on that, could have been fourth string and never started that. You could have been, but you know enough of, you can know X's and O's and talk about a middle linebacker's responsibility, but you know there's nothing that nobody can talk about, that small little free safety that's coming across the field full speed, that lays that wood, and everybody hears that collision. It's like, man, that guy was he just nailed that dude. He's only like 160 degrees, and it is do you get goosebumps feeling it? Because only those that have done it will get it. So
honestly, that's probably the best fucking connection anybody's ever made.
So I would say you just sniff it out. You just know.
Whoa,
you
dude,
just sniff it out. It's so
really
quick.
Thought about that.
Somebody's talking veteran stuff, but the interesting thing is a lot of times there are so many people that believe their own story. They don't think they're going to get questioned. And I don't go around vetting people, but when it comes my way and I'm trying to just stay back and somebody starts telling me stories, and it's happened. I mean, I've had it happen in the gym, and then it's like I'm smelling it, and then I've got an obligation. Do I confront this guy who I'm pretty sure is a poser, or and
like
normally
valor,
exactly. And so it's like
yeah.
I don't want to go there, and it's like, man, I can't do it, man. Hey, dude, you got a Ranger tab on your Ranger? Oh yeah, well I was Ranger. I was with the Ranger battery. I'm not actually a Ranger. Well, you know. Why are you wearing that? If you're not a Ranger, man, just because you're with the unit, why are you wearing it? So, and I'm not just talking about guys in the spec ops field, but
obviously wouldn't know that.
You wouldn't know that, and even a lot of other military wouldn't know if they weren't in that community. So people start reading books and they tell stories, but it's like I said, it's interesting sometimes when you just turn that around and you're like, really? Who was your first sergeant? Oh, I was there at that. Yeah, I was there. Who's your team leader? And the conversation shifts real, and there have been times that I've said, hey brother, don't do that, man. It's just me. It's just me that this you're having this conversation, but guys that that I know. You're getting yanked, you're getting taken outside, and you're having your ass beat, or it's going to happen right here.
It's like a frat style, like, hey man, it's like, you're like repping the.
You're claiming something
not frat, like a gang style, like.
It's
hey,
like
man,
you're claiming something that you don't, and I just look at things, again where I try to be now. I don't. Those things can be time consuming. They can be time-consuming, getting emotionally involved and stuff. So for the most part, unless it's just right in front of me and I'm hearing somebody tell a story to, somebody else, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But for the most part, most people that do that, as I've gotten older and I've valued people a little bit more and their insecurities that we all have, and I appreciate them more and I recognize them more because I've got my own. I'll have more. It'll be much more like me to say, hey, brother, that's just not a good thing to be doing. And recognizing that dude that's telling that story, he's got so many other problems. But it's just not about the military. It's about people wanting to, I'm talking guys mostly because I don't know how it works with the women, but it's that male, let me tell you something and that's a sexy thing, being in the military, especially in combat arms or in special operations or anything like that, that's sexy. And so if you can up your level to somebody that they don't know any better, but I just kind of recognize that they're filling this void to get responses by other people being impressed because they don't have nothing else to impress them with.
Because let's be real, there's not a huge majority, there's not a majority of individuals who actually see combat. There's not a lot of people who actually see live combat consistently. Am I correct? Like a lot of the guys are just out there.
Not
percentage-wise, it's probably pretty small. So my understanding, and I don't care because I respect any individual who fucking signed their name on the dotted line to like preserve our freedom. But if they're talking shit, it's just like somebody who talks shit in my field of work and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, dude, they're embarrassing you. Get the fuck out.
Or they're lying about something that you earned.
Totally.
You earned, and you rate that. You rate that title. You rate that pass. They don't rate it. You just stole something from me and my buddies.
Yeah.
Especially if it's
you
more
stripped us
deeper.
of our pride and our accountability.
Yeah.
Well,
you took something that, and I'm not going to go telling stories about being an air traffic controller because I'm not.
You're not.
Totally. No, but my point being, I'm not gonna. If you're not a pilot, you don't say you're a pilot.
Exactly.
If you worked on 46s, you don't allude by talking about how the 46 rotates and this. It's interesting. The toggle works this way and that way. It's different than the 53, and all that may be correct. But what you just did was you painted a picture with nuances for that other person to think you're a pilot flying a 46.
Yeah.
And that's what
when
people
you're a mechanic.
will do. Well, yeah. And it's like, what's wrong with just saying I was a mechanic on a 46? That's awesome, dude. But like I said, I try to give more grace in those areas, because if not, it'll just, I'm a one-on-one guy,
And you put your time in, and you obviously are very passionate about it, and you should be, because, I mean, let's be real. You have been out there and been a part of more things than the majority of a lot of people. You said you did 22 years, right?
Yeah.
And what, if you can talk about it, was one of the craziest experiences that you probably had? Like the most crazy experience you can talk about. Because from my understanding, let's do this. Let's explain to people let's explain to people first off what Marine Recon is. You are the special forces of the Marines. Am I right?
Well,
like you are like the Rangers of the Marines or the SEALs of the Navy.
It's a little different right now, because now the Marine Corps has their Special Operations Command, where they actually fall under Special Operations.
Gotcha.
When I was in reconnaissance,
but is that more there wasn't like a joint? Is that more like a JSOC operation type of thing?
The elements of it can be part of it, but it's actually it's the Marine Special Operations Command, which we didn't have.
Okay.
When I was in, so
you were, I guess.
But basically, in reconnaissance, the bottom line is you gather information on the bad guys. You've got a lot of different ways of getting there. You gather it, you send it back for follow-on forces. So different means of getting, whether it's ship to shore, whether you can be diving, scuba diving, you can be on a Zodiac for 20 nautical miles. Yeah, a lot of it's amphibious.
Like
you're amphibious.
Shit. Yes. I did not know that.
Doing hydrographic surveys, beach reps. Basically, that is the SEALs' bread and butter more so.
That scares me.
But in the Marine Corps, that's our. So you're amphibious.
You're kind of like a hybrid between. You're a hybrid between like an Army and a fucking Navy.
No, I don't want to say that. Because, in the reconnaissance community, it's different than just being a Marine. I mean, I would explain being a Marine, that's different from the other services. But
But your paycheck comes from the Navy.
Yeah, the Department of Navy.
It does, yeah. Okay.
That doesn't mean anything.
Well, I know it doesn't mean anything, but I mean, anyways, it does come from the Navy, so it makes sense that at least you have a little bit of
We fall under the Department of the Navy going all the way back to Pressfield Bannon. And
ever since it started.
Yeah, so I mean.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, it makes sense that you guys would have some type of an aquatic influence in your type of training, considering it's Navy
We're on
influence.
Ships all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. And so it's not always. I mean, it could be amphibious. It can be, helicopter flying. It can be jumping. It can be if you're already in country and just ground getting there, whatever transportation. But basically, normally, you operate in a 6-man team, and all these different means of insertion that I just threw out briefly. I mean, there's fast rope and there's rappel. There's all kinds of different ways to get ashore. But you got to get ashore clandestinely, gather that information up, and then get it communicated back to the ship or to hire or wherever you're at. So that's really what it is. It just has a lot of the insertion capabilities are the same as your SEALs. That's all.
Gotcha.
On how you get there and how you get back out.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so but there was something else you asked me that I forgot I was going to tell you about.
I don't even remember, to be honest with you.
But anyhow, yeah, that's what that was. Oh, my craziest story.
Yeah, what was was like the more? I guess something like off the top of your head, not necessarily the craziest, or more intense, but like something that comes right off the cuff.
So I was on embassy. I get Marines fight a lot. Maybe they don't as much anymore because they get in a lot more trouble. But so when I was it's like 88, so I was in my third year in the Marine Corps. I was on embassy duty as an embassy guard, and so I was in Chad first, and so I'm trying to think, was that? No, I was in Seoul. So anyhow, in Korea, South Korea. And so I had a buddy of mine who had been in Jakarta or had been in Malaysia before he came to Seoul. And that was his fiance. So he's going to go get married. So we're, embassy guards there. And he wants a couple of us to go, me and my buddy Sanborn. Now, Sanborn, he lives in Maine. He's about 5'5", and he's about this big. And he's a brick. He's a fighter too. So, he likes to fight. So, anyhow, we are out. So my buddy wants us to come over to Malaysia, and we do that. We plan a trip together. We fly out over there. We link up with the Marine guards there because there's not any Marine station there. So you hook up with the other Marines at the embassy, right? Right. Says, take us out, man. Show us where. And of course, we're single and whatever. So we're like, hey, where the hookers at, and or, where's the place to go, this or that. And so we get word to link up with these guys at the Marine House, and they take us out. And it's very third world-ish, but really bad third world portions of the city. When you're talking like
the suburbs of third world country.
Exactly. So you're
like the meridian.
And I'm not going. Malaysia's not really third world. I'd call it more like second world.
Development.
But I mean, you're just your nasty shacks, your different places. So we get out and we go in there, and so I forget. Obviously we had a few pops and got ourselves primed before we went out, and and it's you're in a foreign country, so it's fun for something different.
Yeah.
And talking to the mama-san, one girl comes out, and it was like we're waiting for some other girls to come or something, and this argument starts in the bedroom where one of the other Marines were. And we're just like, and we just kind of thought whatever, had an argument, but they hadn't been in there that long. So it's like, this happened really quick because we're still waiting for some other girls to come out. And, she comes out screaming out, he won't pay me, and I want it ahead of time. And so then the negotiated price wasn't what it was supposed to be. And so anyhow,
how old is she? Like 12?
No, man.
14.
No, I'm pretty sure that she was old enough. She was probably over 18. But again, those are things.
But when you're in a different country, those rules are different, right? It's not 18. It might be 16. It's fucking weird.
I'll be honest with you.
And it's disgusting, but that's how it is.
I don't think that, not normally. I don't think that you just, if you thought somebody was, if you're 19, 20, 18 years old and there's some girl that comes out and she's 16 and you think she's hot, then you probably got an issue, man. So it wouldn't be any of our, you can tell somebody that young. If you're a weirdo,
especially if you're conditioned from the U.S., like you're conditioned 18 is the fucking legal age.
This lady
17, 18.
She'd been doing it for a while, but she was screaming, hollering. She wanted more money up front. And she says something to Mama-san. And Mama-san goes out and yells, it's like it was a wooden. She just yells something down this nasty little ladder well that goes out. She closes the door and she freaking locks it. And there's one, two. There's just three of us. And this is bad. This is bad stuff, man. Just automatically you start thinking, because when you're in a foreign country, especially when you're going into really into the bowels of it, and you can disappear forever, man. And that just happens. And so here we are in this situation. It's like, open that fucking door. We're screaming, open that door. And she's screaming, get money or whatever. And all of a sudden you get pounding on the door, and we're like, do we go through the door? Who's on the other side? Is it the cops? Is it this or that? Some other kids come around from I say kids because they were like teenage kids, came around from the other side just in enough time that this one dude, my buddy that was telling you about, Sanborn, kicks the door, busts open. There's like 4 or 5 teenagers there, ready to get it on. I couldn't tell they were teenagers or anything.
Ready to fight.
They're just ready to see what's going on with these gringos being there. And who knows what the mama-san said, because we didn't do anything, man. Yeah. And they were just... We get
ready to just throw down.
We get outside, and I shit you not, I don't want to exaggerate, but there were probably 15, young male adult, between anywhere from 14. Some
like
of them
12,
were
16.
No, to probably 20.
No shit.
Yeah. So
that's
they came out. They came out of the woodwork.
Holy.
And there's the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And this. Oh man, I'll never forget it because it's a funny because Marines or anything, a lot of times, those that we see as lions, they turn into lambs. And a lot of those lambs that are kind of quiet or whatever, they turn into lions when it's time to get it on.
Yeah.
This guy from the embassy, that embassy there, and he beat feet and ran right through all these guys. And we don't even know how he got there. So it was like 30 minutes of a drive from the embassy. So
this dude just fucking ran.
He just ran. And
he made it back to the embassy.
Didn't know what happened to him. But these guys are closing in on us.
He was fucked up, first of all.
Absolutely.
If you have no idea what's going on
and he
with
left
you're drunk and
he
you're
left some
serious
brothers
shit.
from another country, a different embassy, supposed to be showing us the ropes. And
he was a local.
He was the local embassy guard there.
Which is why they didn't fucking chase him down for how many miles? They would have fucking destroyed that dude, no?
They didn't. He like broke through the perimeter, or he ran before they started kind of closing in on us. But so here's the thing about it. And so this is what's kind of funny. It's funnier when my buddy tells the story. I haven't talked to him for a good 5 years or so.
Feel free to bring him on the show, dog.
Yeah. Anyhow,
we can Skype, do some cool shit on this.
So we got these guys kind of coming in like one at a time, popping, and they're checking
trying
us
to
out
fight.
We're a little bit bigger, yeah. But
they're trying to fight.
They're trying to fight. Now they're gonna fight
fist
us.
to cuff.
Yeah, fisticuff coming in, doing this and getting in their little stances. Some of them, it's like I don't know if you're really, a karate guy or taekwondo or
but did
martial
you
arts.
Did you try to mitigate it? Be like,
there was no way.
We're not trying to fight you.
It was bad. It was bad.
No shit. They were super offensively aggressive.
They were. I think that
I'm gonna fucking
they were
throw
gonna
down.
roll us. They were gonna roll us and take our money and do that mama-san. Good, and say, hey, I got your money, or do whatever it was.
I can't even. So I have boxed, and I've been in a cage against professional MMA fighters, professional boxers. I've been in the cage against people, and I've had an adrenaline rush, knowing that this dude across from me isn't gonna try to fucking kill me, but he's gonna try to at least drop me and win the fucking fight. That level of adrenaline, I would say, in my opinion, would give me a 7 out of 10 of what you probably were experiencing at that point, because those people probably would have killed you. Am I correct?
I have no idea,
they
man.
Probably. So the situation,
it's like being in the slum, slummiest part of Tijuana that's 30 miles away from downtown. And you've never been to Tijuana, and you don't know the people, and you got all these, and it's coming out of this environment. So
just out of the fucking darkness.
Just out of the darkness. They're coming out of the woodwork. But we figured it out later that it was when the mama-san yelled and locked that door. It was like some kind of calling card to the local kids or whoever. Hey, we're having problems.
Yeah.
So, but the funny thing about it was, I say it's funny because these guys were not coming in. If you look back, if they were smart, they would have just bum rushed us all at one time. And
obviously they were amateur.
They were a little intimidated.
Gang.
They were younger too.
It was a gang, dude. It wasn't an army. It was a gang, dude.
They're trying to figure us out too. But
you're fucking American soldiers, dude.
They didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh shit.
We're civilian clothes, man. I'm not wearing a uniform out.
They didn't.
We could just look like anybody.
So why
tourists.
was it that they summoned you? They had these. I guess. Why was it that these people were summoned against you? What was it that triggered them?
I think because it wasn't legitimate, as far as I know. I don't think my buddy,
Did they think you were part of the United States? You were in Mexico.
I think they knew we were
in
Americans.
Mexico at the time.
No. I was.
Where were you?
We were in Malaysia.
Okay.
I was giving you an example of being in 30 miles away from Tijuana out of nowhere.
I was like, Mexico?
I was just trying to give you that idea. And there's some pretty places in Tijuana. It's fine, but you get way out there. And these things happen.
It's the same type of environment.
Primitive,
very cultural, very
education.
They are
how do I get my score? Who could I help?
And so obviously you look out of place. I'm Aryan as fuck. I'm afraid to go anywhere in the world because I have blue eyes. I'm 6'3". I'm fucking athletic and I'm educated. Like anybody would be super stoked to fucking kidnap me and hold me for ransom, or just cut my fucking head off if I don't fucking pay the ransom.
Yeah.
That's how I feel, and unfortunately, that's why I don't travel as much as I should.
That's why you got to go all inclusive resorts, man. Then you don't have to worry about it. Let me tell you, so many things.
I did. I went to Mexico. Guess what? Those fucking resorts that I went to in Mexico, everybody started dying because those resorts were buying. Booze. Like bad booze that were
maybe
were
not Mexico,
people.
But I mean there's
I went to Jamaica though. Shout out to Jamaica. Yeah, man. That was sick, dude. I had a blast. Jamaica was fucking sick and those chicks were dope.
When I was
super dope, super nice, super professional.
I don't do any of those. I'm much more I was just very reckless. And pretty invincible in my mind, not just me, but a lot of guys. So, that, even though that was pretty hairy, I'll finish my story for you though.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Man.
So anyhow,
totally
no, that's all right, man.
It's my bad.
There was like a piece of, it wasn't a 2x4, it was more like a 1x2 or whatever, but it was like up against one of the shacks. Cause they were like, half moon, and then we had the shack behind us, so you couldn't get to it. So I grabbed this board, and I pull it off the little shack thing, and I start doing this thing with it. So, yeah, I don't know martial arts. I don't know any of that stuff, right? But I've messed around with flipping, like a broomstick or something, just being able to flip it, and I start doing this, and their eyes get big and they back up, and then all of a sudden I drop it and it's like clink, 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 clink. And they're all like, this guy's full of shit. He doesn't know how to use that stick. And I shit you not, man, it went on for maybe another. Oh, I know what had happened too. This one dude came up with that same board.
Yeah.
And my buddy bent over backwards and he slammed it and it busted in half. And that was another thing where we're like, do we really want to continue with these guys?
American as fuck.
A cab came out of nowhere, man. A cab came.
Like a taxi.
Yeah, a taxi cab came across the street. And I mean, there had been nothing. I'm saying this whole event probably took maybe 10 minutes,
Sure.
From the beginning. It wasn't.
Feels like forever, but it's like super short.
But somehow this guy knew, and those cabs there, they got doors that they just electronically, push the button and the doors open,
pop out,
and he just came flying up, and it was like, boom, and me and Sanborn were waving, like here comes a cab, but this guy already knew. He knew it was really bad. We were in a really bad situation. Popped them open. But we were low on money, didn't have enough money to take the cab all the way back. But we just ran through these dudes and maybe one or two swings and got all these young kids chasing us after and jumping in a cab, man. And just saying, and not being able to speak, Malay or Arabic or anything, just to be able to say, go Kuala Lumpur, go to Kuala Lumpur. And, the guy was awesome, man. And so when we got back to the hotel, we were like, trying to explain it, just stay. And we went upstairs and got some
get you
good money and
we'll make sure you get paid.
Hooked them up with a lot. But I mean, it was crazy,
shit.
man. And so, but I mean,
how far was that from where you were at, Kuala Lumpur?
Yeah, Kuala Lumpur is the capital of Malaysia. We were probably like 30 minutes out on a cab drive. 30 minutes
probably
out.
Like $150.
It probably wasn't that much.
Well, I guess you're in fucking Malaysia. Probably like 90, 110.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
But you probably paid him $150.
No, we could afford. We had money to pay the cab fare.
Dude,
we just we needed to get him more. I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. But I mean,
he saved your fucking life, so
you
should give him some
when you
cash.
Talk about, sometimes those sometimes you don't appreciate those things until you look back and just say, man, that was bad. And putting yourself in that position too. And the majority of the times we do. You know, the majority of the times when you talk about almost dying, or I mean, maybe it may be part of an occupation or a job, but for some or other situations. But if you think about those types of experiences, 95% of it normally in life is our choices, the free will choice.
Totally.
And a lot of and we get good stuff for our choices in general, and we get, and for poor choices that we do know they're not good, we normally get bad stuff from that too. So
yeah, dude, that's crazy. Well, not a lot of people get to hear stuff like like that. That's insane. The adrenaline, in my opinion, I'm trying to put myself in your situation. I can't even imagine.
It was awesome when we got in there and we were driving. Yeah. But that's that when you talked about that adrenaline, that real world adrenaline that's going on. There is an excitement to it. There is a uncertainty to it. There is a it's, for me, it's not so primal, but I think some situations for people it can be primal if you just you're not really absorbing what's going on. Right. But if you can keep your mind in your head, even something like that, we put ourselves in a situation, you know what I mean?
So did you not have weapons? I didn't even ask you that. No. You had no weapons.
I had no weapons.
You had no way to defend yourself. No. And you had a whole, essentially, almost an entire village surrounding you.
Well, I can tell you this. Remember, so picture yourself going to visit another university if you got the same fraternity, and you don't know that campus, you've never been there, and you travel over there, and you're going to stay with them, and these guys are going to hook you up for a good time. They're going to show you where the party, all these different things. And so for something like that to happen, had I known, number one, it was going to be that far out of town, me and Sam were on board. Had we known it was going to be that far out of town, and certainly had we known that this guy was going to tuck tail.
You think this was a setup?
No.
No? It was not a setup?
No, we went to the embassy that night, and
just so happened.
Yeah, it just so happened it was a poor choice. And this guy, I don't think he'd been out there. I don't think he realized what not a good place for three white guys with short haircuts to be hanging out and trying to get prostitutes. These are local. This is your lower, not even a red light district. This is your lower seedy local prostitute place.
Gotcha. So it wasn't a
it wasn't
I'm sorry. I now I'm establishing the actual flat ground. So that totally makes sense. So you guys were just a bunch of gringos showing up in just a shady part of town, and these were just local thugs coming out to try to take your money.
Try to roll us. Yeah, and it just so happens that
they didn't know you guys were military.
No, I don't. Well, they could have. We had short haircuts, but the dude.
But white dudes for the most part have short haircuts. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think.
Unless just you're wearing black.
I can tell you this: they weren't used to seeing white people in their neighborhood. And
so that's
totally.
So they're just trying to roll. He was just locals trying to roll you. I thought. At first, you were talking about it was a local militia trying to take advantage of a military. They knew you were military, and they were trying to roll the military dudes and try to fuck you guys up. And obviously, you guys got strategic.
We would have been in a lot of trouble if there was any professionalism.
You had no weapons. Why did you not have weapons?
My point being,
how did you not have weapons?
If you're going,
how do you not carry a small weapon or allowed a small weapon?
In a foreign country, number one, if back then, I don't know what the rules are now, but
that doesn't make sense to me. How are you not allowed to wear a weapon as a foreign military? You are
when you are going out in town,
considerably more certified than anybody else.
No, I mean,
in
when
the
you're on embassy duty, you are considered
a
diplomat. So you have diplomatic immunity. The problem is the the status of forces agreements between all the different countries to be able to carry a weapon certainly when you're on duty, when you're at work, or on your own compounds.
I carried a weapon the entire time we were on tour the last 2 weeks. No, I've documented.
I know, I saw that
everywhere.
You should, man.
Yeah, and you should. Which blows my mind because I'm not military, and I literally had a gun on my hip for like 10 days straight. So for me to like think that you guys were in this position without any type of like defense blows my mind.
Well, like I said, it was had we known that this guy,
yeah.
If you're let's say
let's say you know
where the Nampa prostitutes, the regular nice places are, right? Where you're going to go, maybe call girls, and you expect that that's where this dude that lives there is going to take you to, but he doesn't take you there. He takes you way out to frickin' Marsing, and we're someplace, and there's some little shack where people live around, and it's, and he doesn't know that area. But had you known that he wasn't going to take you to something place where you feel a little safe,
that makes
that's
sense.
bad for business if you have bad problems
but you have
in reputable places,
and you have no control over that at that point.
Yeah, well, we didn't know, but you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to carry. Just like foreigners that come here, unless they're not allowed to carry concealed weapons on our sidewalks just because they're here guarding their embassy. And it's the same way with us. We don't get to carry weapons wherever we go out in town, especially when we're drinking and we're chasing skirt and looking for hookers.
See, yeah, that makes sense.
Those things.
Well, and I didn't know that. I don't know that. Like, right. I've never asked that question. Nobody's ever clarified that with me.
No. It makes sense though, because a lot of times folks will.
Well, you would think that like there would be some type of an international concealed carry, like not concealed carry, but like essentially like the equivalent of like a militaristic concealed carry law where you are afforded the freedom to like protect yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing that you are in a foreign country and you're representing another country, you should be able to protect your person. Am I correct? That's kind of how I feel.
No, exactly.
I don't know.
But
I can do it like nationally, like within 42 of the 50 states. So I feel like I should be able to do it at least in certain countries that like respect the United States.
Yeah. Again, we don't give them that opportunity because most people would probably be buffoons from other countries with weapons. But it's just international incidents, and we know that people drink and they go out, and Marines, and when you got to protect yourself and you pull that trigger, and you're a diplomat working at an embassy. It's not just you and that embassy and what happened. It's huge.
United States of America. Yeah, and no, that makes sense, and I agree with you wholeheartedly on the fact that like it's better to strip individuals of those national rights when it comes to international laws, because I think you are obviously showing respect, but I would assume the other country, let's say Korea, like South Korea, would probably enforce the same diplomatic laws that it would if the United States were to have the same situation happen.
No, they would.
I
think it's just normally America, and again, I learned this from, I learned this from a lot of time overseas, and this is where I was too. And it's not a good thing. It's why bad stuff happens to Americans all the time in foreign countries. And I had this by thinking I was invincible by being a Marine or even maybe being on embassy duty. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking on liberty. I'm talking about deployments. I'm talking about in other foreign countries, in Africa, and in a lot of different places that I did think that, I was still invincible for the most part. And it's not a big deal.
And so, why is that? Just because you're Americans and you're kind of conditioned
part of
it
was
that
being a
like,
Marine.
You are the best of the best, and nobody can fuck with you.
Part of it was, I think, protecting yourself is by being a Marine. But I think we have this quality. I'm not going to call it a quantity. I'd say it's more of a deficiency. But in general, that as Americans, from my perception, what I've seen, that somehow we think that when we go to other countries, we don't have to do the stuff the way they do it, and we get to kind of be, hey, I'm an American. Yeah. I'm sorry I was trafficking drugs. I'm an American. Who gives a shit? we treat everybody the same. This is where you're at. You're in Colombia. You're in America. You're in Kuwait. And that could be whether it's our journalists, whether it's these other people, whether it's our missionaries, whether it's, a lot of times, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to lump a bunch of factors together, but I have seen, because I had the same mentality, and I've seen a lot with Americans, especially if they're in a place that they don't want to be and it's a shithole to them and they hate it. There's this air, there's this overconfidence that, I'm an American, and it's called, I think it used to be called the ugly American. Walking around like you're in charge of wherever you go, in La La Land. Don't have to worry about security, not have to worry about the terrorist threat, not have to worry. When I was a little older in the service, these were a concern to me, and obviously now I don't travel because these things are real things. But there is a sense of security, and it's a couple of generational things. It's no different than just our generations getting soft, that too. But I see it. I saw it even back then that we're superior. We're in Korea, and you should be happy that we're here. And they're like, I don't know. Would I be happy to have Korea still occupying our country after they came and fought a war for us? I don't think so. I don't think I want to see Korean guys with all of our women,
totally.
So if you flip that stuff around, man, it's,
we are literally the empire of the current generation. Like, if you think about it, we own Korea, we own Japan.
Well, Japan's getting a little more autonomous.
Yeah, they are. And didn't they just recently establish their own national army within the last 5 years maybe?
Well, they've allowed to have a national defense to protect their homeland for some time, but now they're
it was superseded by the U.S. We oversaw.
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah, we
controlled what it is they were able to do,
exactly,
and we controlled it.
So they didn't build up again and come fight us again, but they can actually deploy into some places, and they don't. But they don't. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're talking generations ago. You're talking WW2, man. You're talking about stuff that, our grandfathers and great-grandfathers, or if you're talking to Korea, you're talking 1950, 1951.
But that's what they teach us. They don't tell us anything
my point
more.
Being is, if you are those people that live, like if we lived in this country and let's just say Korea came in and bailed us out in 1951 from those aggressors from Canada, and you're like on the fourth or fifth generation, and you got these Koreans that surround your freaking country, you'd have some animosity. You'd be like, hey, how long do we got to keep paying you back? So I just try to see both sides.
But it's a conditioning though, right? Like that's all we know at that point. So we really don't know. And I would assume at that point, our national media would be somewhat controlled by Korea, in this instance. And so we would only conform to what it is that Korea would tell us. Maybe if we had Mexico dropping some fucking information bombs, kind of like what South Korea does with North Korea, right? With their little propaganda drones and their proud. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, at that extent, we might have some type of a resistance, but at the same extent, yes. You are
going back to the weapon
correct,
thing.
Though.
We don't want people from other countries coming in here acting. We want them to assimilate, right?
Fuck no. That's why I got a gun. That's why I've gun.
But we want them to respect our laws. We don't want them coming in and acting. Hey, don't you know who I am?
Yeah,
I'm from Korea. So
respect me. Yeah, exactly.
Americans, I'm just saying, have been We've had. We've just not had anybody on our shores. We have not had to fight other than against each other or the Revolutionary War, man.
Because
Americans don't get that in general.
Well, we are. But people don't get that. They don't get.
How many neighbors can you count on your hand that? You may have good neighbors. I got good neighbors too. But how many can you count on your hand that are going to be in the fight if a burglar comes in your house? That are going to come right in.
To be completely honest with you, I would probably bet on just the dude in the house east of me.
Yeah.
Only because the guy west of me, I don't know if that guy's manly enough to actually own a gun.
Well, a gun, I have a gun, but you hear what I'm saying though.
And my dog has already fucked somebody up who's tried to walk into my house, who was not supposed to walk in my house without being introduced to being walked in my house. And that's what she's bred for. And I do not tame her. I let her know, like, hey, you bark the shit out of that person, I will let you know if I want you to be with that fucking person. So if there's somebody who's like a solicitor, my dog doesn't meet him. My dog doesn't know who the fuck that person is.
Right.
Why? Because if that person's casing my house, I want my dog to fuck that person up when they walk in my house. The only reason I say that is because my dog has completely destroyed somebody's hand for trying to be nice and walk in my house. I know what my dog's bred for. I'm not a hunter. I don't do like this. I don't need a lab.
No, I hear.
I don't need a lab. Right. You know, like
you got a dog that's a companion and a protector and a friend. So
exactly. I mean, and I don't suppress anything that it is that she's supposed to do naturally. I make sure that my dog is within her bounds and she doesn't act out more so than she should within certain types of behaviors, because she can be a little eccentric at times, which is why, like, when I answered the door, I made sure that she knew who you were. I'd like let her know that you were coming over beforehand, because
what'd she say about that?
She was excited.
Awesome.
Yeah, she got excited. Well, she always gets excited when she knows somebody's coming over. Right. But then when I opened the door, obviously she was very excited to see you.
Yeah. And
that's because I let her know that you were cool.
And I put my hand out too and let her know that, hey, I'm okay. So,
yeah.
Well, a Doberman looking at you.
Yeah. And one of the experiences is I had a guy open the door and put his hand in to let her know that he was cool. I didn't let her know that he was coming because it wasn't my guest. It was like my house guest. And they invited somebody over. I told them, hey, let my dog know if you have somebody come over, let her know. Otherwise, she's going to fuck that person up because she doesn't know that this is somebody she should, like, protect you against. Long story short, that person was in the shower. Homeboy opened up the door, put his hand in, say, hey, I'm cool. She almost took off his entire thumb. And this is a dude like twice my size, like a big motherfucker. But she didn't know. My dog didn't know. Like, she didn't know what was and what was not acceptable. Yeah, and I mean, let's be real. It was like a female at home that she was supposed to protect, and that's the type of breed I have. Again, I don't hunt, so I don't have a hunting dog. I don't do labs. I don't have, like short hairs. I don't do that. I live in a place where, like, if somebody were to break into my home, they would do it for a reason, and it would be for ill intent. Absolutely. And I might as well get a dog or some type of a security system.
A little buffer before the...
Yeah, totally.
Before, something else comes out.
Totally. So. Well, and my gun is literally right at the side of my bed. It's within a case. I literally flip it, fingerprint, flip it, boom, done, son. Like, I hear my dog, you walk into my room, I will shoot you, unless you have texted me beforehand. Sorry, but that's America. So, and that's why I have the right to do it, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, dude. You have some crazy stories. So what's one of the do you have any funny stories with any of your brothers or training or anything like that? And we can actually just do like a follow-up on like an episode 2 if you want to.
Sure, man.
Because if we're looking at it, we've been going for an hour and 57 minutes.
Yeah,
and that's almost 2 episodes. I'll probably just do 1. So, anyways, everybody, make sure that you subscribe. Give us 5 stars. Pass the episode along. Mark, is there any shout-outs you want to give?
Shout out to your folks listening, man.
Hell yeah.
And to you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm flattered to come out and just to talk with you, catch up, and all of it was good, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. I appreciate it. I've wanted you on the show for a long time. I think I've expressed that in the earlier part of the episode. Those of you who have listened this long, we really appreciate it. Peace.